You know that feeling, right? When you get an official-looking government letter and your stomach just drops a little. Well, today we're going to unpack one of those exact letters from the Indonesian Tax Authority. But here's the twist. Instead of a bill, it's a story about a taxpayer who decided to fight back and actually won. So, let's dive in.
So when you see this seal, the Negara Dana Rakcha, you know it's serious business. I mean, it's the official mark of the Ministry of Finance and is designed to command your attention. For most of us, seeing this on an envelope usually means one thing. You probably owe some money. It looks serious because, well, it usually is.
But what if, for once, a letter with this exact seal wasn't a demand for more cash? What if it was actually good news? A confirmation of a victory? That's the story we're getting into today. How behind all the formal language and official codes, the system can actually work the way it's supposed to.
All right, so let's start by looking at the document itself. This is the piece of paper that flips the whole script. This letter is the hero of our story today.
The letter is called an SP2G. Now, in plain English, this is basically the tax office saying, well, the court made a final decision and we're now officially putting it into effect. See, it's not a bill or a warning, it's just them carrying out an order. So, what's inside really depends on what the court decided.
So, let's look at the specifics. It's addressed to a taxpayer named Desi Mutiara, but check out that subject line, implementation of a lawsuit decision. Right there, that's your first clue that this is not your average tax notice. This is the final chapter of a much, much longer story.
To really get why this letter is such a big deal, we've got to rewind. We have to go back to the beginning to see how this whole thing even started. And like a lot of these stories, this one begins with a tax bill.
The whole conflict kicked off with something called an SKPKB. Think of this as the villain of our story. It's the formal notice where the tax office says, hey, we've looked at your numbers and we think you underpaid. You owe us more money. It's the kind of letter that really starts the clock ticking on a long and, frankly, pretty stressful process. And here are the details of the case file. The taxpayer, Desi Mutiara, got hit with this underpayment letter for final income tax. And get this, the tax period was way back in August 2020, but the bill itself, the SEKPB, didn't actually show up until almost 5 years later, in June of 2025. And this is the official assessment that she decided to fight.
So, what do you do when you get a tax bill you think is just plain wrong? You don't just roll over and pay it. You challenge it. And that's exactly what happened here, which set the stage for a major legal showdown. Instead of just writing a check, the taxpayer took a really crucial step. They filed a lawsuit and took their case to the Indonesian tax court. This is a fundamental right. You know, it turns what was a one-sided demand into a two-sided argument, where suddenly evidence and the rule of law are what really matter. This timeline really puts the whole journey into perspective. You've got the tax period in 2020. Then, boom, 5 years later, the assessment letter shows up. But after that, things moved pretty quickly, legally speaking. In just about 6 months, the tax court heard the whole case and gave its final verdict. And then, less than a month after that, the tax office issued the letter we're looking at today.
So, this is it, the moment of truth. After all the arguments, all the paperwork, all the evidence, what did the judges actually decide?
And here you have it. The court's verdict was crystal clear. Mengabulkan seluruhnya, which means the taxpayer's appeal was granted in full, 100%. And membatalkan SKP. That means the original tax assessment was completely canceled, wiped out. This wasn't a compromise. It was a total undisputed victory.
Okay, so winning in court is amazing, but it's just words on paper until the government agency involved actually does something about it. And this is where that SP2G letter becomes so important.
Right, so the really key thing to understand is that the SP2G letter is the bridge. It connects the court's decision to the tax authority's actions. It's the official administrative step that makes the tax office update its records and accept what the court decided. Without this letter, that original tax bill might just be sitting in their system forever. And let's be clear, the tax office isn't just doing this out of the goodness of their hearts. They are legally required to do it. The letter itself even points to the specific laws, like the tax court law, that force them to comply. It's a perfect example of checks and balances in action. The law says one part of the government has to respect the final decision of another.
And this right here is the bottom line. The SP2G officially says that the tax assessment, that specific number that started this entire saga, is now canceled. For the taxpayer, this is it, the final, definitive end. The bill is gone, the case is closed.
So, moving beyond just this one case, why does any of this matter to the rest of us? What's the big takeaway from this one piece of official paper?
Because this document is so much more than just an administrative note. It is tangible proof that the appeals process is real, that an independent court can overrule the tax authority, and, most importantly, that those rulings have to be respected. It's a powerful reminder that no single government agency has absolute unchecked power.
So, if we boil it all down, here are the key things to remember. First, a tax assessment is just their opening argument. It is not the final word. Second, you have a legal right to challenge it. Third, the tax authority is bound by law to follow what the court says. And maybe the biggest lesson of all, sometimes that official letter in your mail isn't a bill, but a confirmation of your rights.
And that really leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? This whole story can change the way you look at official mail. It makes you wonder, what other government documents, the ones we usually look at with dread, are actually there to protect and confirm our rights? It's a great reminder to always read the fine print.